Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It's Sunday once more, which means it's time for another episode of the Captain's Table. In keeping with this season of the Captain's Table, I'm doing them once every 2 weeks instead of every week. Partly because right now, well, there's just not that much going on in my life. I really don't think I could make a decent episode every week. Now, what has been going on for me in the last 2 weeks is, well, as mentioned, not too much. At least the first week since the last episode there. Not a lot happened in that week. Went up, saw my bird, and, measured and assessed the progress that my bird was making. Finally did get the DNA back on that. Echo, my blue-headed Pyonis, is a female. It is a she, so from now on I can refer to Echo as she or her, as opposed to it or the bird. Kind of excited about that news. It's a little bit of a mix. There are some pros and cons to this. The pro here is that it basically means come the bird's sexual maturity, about 2 years old or so, when mating season for that parrot rolls around, this bird will be less likely to become aggressive towards other people. Now, the males of this species do have that tendency, and unfortunately that tendency can actually transfer over into a lifelong aggression towards certain people, as opposed to just a seasonal thing. So there's that advantage of having a female as opposed to a male there. The disadvantage, of course, is that I have to be careful not to encourage nesting behavior. See, with female birds, if you give them something to nest in, or you encourage that behavior by giving them paper to shred, or otherwise, what will happen is that once they reach sexual maturity, they will start laying eggs. Granted, these eggs will be duds, at least in my case, because there's no male to fertilize them. But the problem here is that egg laying is very, very stressful on birds' bodies, which is why they basically only do it once a year, and why most bird species only lay between 2 and 3 eggs, although this one can lay up to 5. It also drains the birds of calcium, and that can be a very, very problematic thing if you end up with a parrot that constantly lays eggs, because then you have the problem of needing to provide calcium supplements, but by doing so you are effectively also continuing to encourage the egg-laying behavior by doing it. So it becomes a very fine line and very difficult to break that cycle. So I do need to be careful. It's something I have to think about a couple years from now. So, well, nothing happened 2 weeks ago. Last week, I did have a little bit more of kind of an unfortunate / eventful week. Now, if you follow me on Facebook, you'll notice that I did post, so you're already aware of this. But basically, last week, I started running into a problem where, first, I was feeling a little bit under the weather. I had had a kind of mild sore throat for the better part of 2 weeks, and then the beginning of last week started waking up with some earaches, like very, very painful for short periods of time, and then just an unrelenting urge to claw my inner ear out, just so itchy. Luckily, it was just a mild, I think, infection localized there, and my body was able to fight that off. So after about 2-3 days of effectively staying home and resting, I was able to recover, and I don't have a sore throat anymore, which is fantastic. So because I had that sore throat, because I wasn't feeling the best, didn't put out a second video World Warships for the week. And then, to top that off, my PC Red, now that's my gaming PC, that's the one that I do all of my gaming, all of my live streaming, do the recordings on, do the videos on. That PC is having a little bit of a problem. Now, I'm pretty sure this problem is related to the case, and ideally, hopefully, not related to anything outside of the case, like my graphics card or on my motherboard. But effectively, what's happening is that every time I turn my PC on, or wake it up from sleep mode, it will kick on, the case fans will start up, and then I will get a very high-pitched, loud, or reasonably loud, constant noise. And if you're a PC person, you know that noise. It sounds like one or two of my fans are basically burning out. They're dying. They're having a very hard time. They're not caught. I do have a fan that is catching on a little wire somewhere. I think it's clipping the CPU fan. And so that leaves a little tick. That's always there, and there's nothing I can do about that. But these fans, they give a whine like they're in their death throes. Now, the problem with this is that when I wake up in the morning, that's when I want to do my recordings for World of Warships, or, you know, for anything that I'm recording. Basically, I do it in the morning when I wake up at about 5 a.m. so that I don't have to worry about neighbor noise. I don't have upstairs neighbors who are going to be up and causing loud disturbances. I don't have next door neighbors, the same thing. And it's very unlikely that the fire department, which is literally a block away, is going to get called out at 5 a.m. So it's nice and quiet, and it's perfect to record videos so that I can get the full clarity, and I don't have to worry about filtering out a lot of background noise. And the background noise that those fans create is a little bit more excessive and inconsistent enough that my audio program that I use to filter out the background noise, that white noise or that little ticking noise on my PC, it's not effective enough to get that completely filter out. Now, that fan, those fans, do finally stop making that noise after about 30 or 40 minutes. They make that noise for quite a little bit, and then they finally stop. I'm not sure what that means, other than maybe, I don't know, maybe they just need lube. Maybe they're a little too dry. I don't know what the problem is, but eventually they get up and running and they quiet out, which is great. It does mean I can record. The problem is,
I have to go.
By that point, well, it's effectively time for me to make breakfast, get dressed, and get ready for work. Now, I could do those videos all on one day. I could do them all on Sunday. I could do them all on Monday. That's certainly a prospect. Something that I will probably end up having to do, and realistically, I should just get back into the habit of doing that. But, you know, I've only got 2 days off. I still have to go up and see my bird for the time being, because the bird's not home with me, which takes a good 2-3 hours out of my day. And I still have all my housework that's got to get done. So this is one of those things that's like, I don't know if I can necessarily dedicate what would effectively be about 3 hours of either recording the replay, recording my voice, editing everything together, getting it rendered, and then doing the whole process again for another 20-minute video. Basically, I've got too much going on and not enough time to do it. Now, that will change following my vacation. I'm hoping. I'm absolutely hoping that will change following my vacation because, you see, Echo is now 9.5 weeks old. And the blue-headed Pioneers, generally speaking, tend to wean and be ready to leave the nest at 70 days, or 10 weeks old. So she's almost 10 weeks old. She should pretty much be weaning at this point, like rapidly weaning off at this point. That's not to say that could necessarily be the case. Every bird is different. And even if she was weaned completely, I can't take her home yet, because here in just 2 weeks, I'm going to be flying out of state. No, I'm not flying down to the wargaming thing in Anaheim, although I was invited and offered well, effectively a free trip there. No, instead, because that just happens to fall at the end of my trip, I am going to Texas. I'm going to Texas to see the USS Texas and, of course, the USS Lexington, as well as a couple of other things down there. A couple of tall ships and even a destroyer escort. Very, very excited about that. Even going to stop by Houston. Hopefully we'll have time for that. All in all, looking forward to that trip. But because I'm going on that trip, because I'm going to be out of state for a whole week, I'm not going to bring the bird home until I'm back home. Because stress is a major factor in good bird health. And stress can actually kill a bird really, really easily. So I don't want to take the bird home and then immediately, have to go to work the very next day, not giving it enough time to adapt, not being around to monitor it, get it acclimated and all that sort of thing. And B, then immediately have to give it over to move it back out of its brand new home that it's still getting familiar with and put it in a temporary cage at my dad's house for his husband to take care of for the whole week. I don't want to do that. That's too much stress on the bird. That'd be too much stress on me. So instead, I'm planning on taking the bird home on the 10th of November. So I'm hoping it's about 3 weeks from now that the bird will be fully weaned and ready to come home with me at that point. And of course, speaking of the bird coming home with me, that will probably be the very first YouTube video for Echo's YouTube channel. It will be her homecoming. It will be her getting acclimated. I don't necessarily know when I'll get that posted, but as soon as I make that channel, get everything situated, I will absolutely include that link in the description down below. And hopefully, we'll see, maybe there will be enough parrot people out there. One thing I can say on YouTube, and just in general, there's not a lot of blue-headed Pyonis videos out there. So people who are thinking of getting a bird like that really is going to help them. Plus, I think it'll be fun to go there, post those videos, post things like learning to train the bird, learning to step up, learning to fly when called, learning potty training. That's going to be, you know, just as simple as holding the bird over the trash can or the toilet or putting it back on the perch that I have for the bird, getting it to do its business there and establishing a, you know, routine so that when it does need to go, it knows that it needs to go there and not anywhere else. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of the Captain's Table. The next episode of the Captain's Table will be in 2 weeks. That should be on the 4th. And that'll be perfect timing because on the 5th, I fly to Texas. So I'll be able to get that video out for you. Hopefully, I'll have a couple of videos there for you. You can expect a USS Texas video on probably that Tuesday, which would be about right, as I fully expect to be visiting the Texas on Tuesday, the 6th of November. And as always, guys, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.